Okay, I want to welcome everyone to this NewBIC webinar, an introduction to Salesforce New Manufacturing Cloud. My name is Camille. I'm the Chief Commercial Officer here at NewBIC. I spent the last 15 years of my career helping manufacturers and distributors optimize their operations leveraging technology. With me today, I have Jean-Michel Tremblay, who's a business solution architect here at NewBIC. We spend most of our time working with manufacturers and distributors, helping them to transform their businesses using the #1 customer success solution, Salesforce. When I started my career, I was working in the ERP space. Now, a lot of people know that Salesforce is the best CRM solution on the market. It's great to manage your sales, your prospects, your leads, etc. But not everyone knows that you can run your entire business on Salesforce, from leads acquisition all the way to contract renewal. My point is the line between ERP and CRM is now completely blurred. If you've been following market trends for a little while, you know like me that top performing organizations don't have a back in a front office anymore. Top performing organizations have one thing in common. They put the customer at the center of everything, at the center of marketing, center of sales, procurement, manufacturing, service, billing, finance. There's no more back and front office, and all of these functions can be addressed with Salesforce. But before we continue, we want to thank you. We want to thank you for taking the time to attend this webinar. We know that everyone is very busy, but we think you made a very smart decision to take 30 minutes out of your time to learn why Salesforce Manufacturing Cloud is a game changer. We'll spend the next 30 minutes together, and we'll cover a few topics. First, I'll quickly set the table by talking about some of the most popular pain points we hear from the manufacturing industry. Then we'll cover what is Salesforce New Manufacturing Cloud. Jean-Michel will then show it to us in action, and we'll conclude by telling you why Manufacturing Cloud is important. Before continuing, I want to let you know that you can ask questions by typing them in a chat box that's typically located on the lower right-hand side of the meeting interface. Because we don't have a lot of time together today, we might not have the time to answer everyone's questions during the webinar, but know that we will address each and every one of those afterwards. Okay, let's begin with the pain points now. The first one, which is very common with all our manufacturing customers, pertains to inventory. Inventory of raw materials, inventory of finished goods. Do you have the right items in inventory? Do you have too much inventory? I'm sure all of you can relate to how difficult it is to balance meeting immediate demand and avoiding stockouts. The second pain point we hear all the time is how important it is to respect the customer's service level agreement. Think about it, as consumers, our service expectation continues to rise. It's only normal that your customers, whether it be retailers, distributors, or agents, they want to ensure that your products will be available in the fastest period of time. But sometimes that means having enough raw material or enough staff available to manufacture your products, and that can be extremely costly. A third point is margins. For a manufacturer, gross margin level often serves as a critical cost control measurement. This is especially important if your organization is experiencing fast growth. It's very easy to take the wrong decision and invest in a wrong asset or the wrong machine if you don't have a clear view on your bookings. The last pain point I'll talk about is siloed system, or rather how complicated and expensive it often is to have a single version of the truth within your organization. At the end of the day, when your customers, your sales team, and your operation teams are disconnected, it impacts your organization's capacity to scale. Let's take a look at how Manufacturing Cloud can help you with these challenges. Manufacturing Cloud is built on top of Sales Cloud and Service Cloud and leverages all existing objects on the platform. With Manufacturing Cloud, you'll drive transparency across run rates and new business with the new sales agreement functionality. You'll also surface insights across your entire business with the new account-based forecasting feature. Jean-Michel is going to show those to us in just a few moments. You'll also be able to extend the sales agreement collaboration with the new partner community specifically for Manufacturing Cloud. Leveraging the new Einstein Analytics for Manufacturing Cloud, you'll be able to surface actionable business insights. You'll also be able to integrate both ERP and CRM in a systematic way, leveraging MuleSoft new integration accelerators for SAP and other popular ERP solutions. Now, Jean-Michel, if you're ready, please show us Manufacturing Cloud in action and give us some more details on how it will change the way manufacturers work with their commercial teams.
Thanks, Camille. So before I jump into Manufacturing Cloud demo, here's a quick look at our scenario and what your operations could currently look like without Manufacturing Cloud. And then we'll see how we can handle those in Manufacturing Cloud to help your business make your life easier. So we have an operations director, Jeff. We have a sales rep, Linda, and a VP of sales, John. So currently, without Manufacturing Cloud, Jeff tries to gather data from every sales rep in the organization to properly plan the upcoming manufacturing operations. Linda maintains her sales agreements in separate spreadsheets, just like all other sales reps. So that's a lot of data for Jeff to get into his own Excel spreadsheet to then look at the overall picture. It's also very hard for Linda with spreadsheets to compare the actuals to the forecasted sales in the sales agreements. So then, as I said, Jeff must spend hours combining those spreadsheets, some of them even containing outdated data. So overall, planning is cumbersome and results in significant number of back orders or expedited orders. So let's jump into a demo of Manufacturing Cloud, and let's see how we can manage sales agreement in Salesforce. So here's your typical home page in Salesforce. We have an Einstein Analytics dashboard on our home page that looks at product sales, is integrated with agreements with forecast. We'll go over this part very quickly because we'll come back to analytics if time allows us further down in this demo. So let's quickly jump on one of our accounts that doesn't currently have a sales agreement, and we'll create one for them. So Home Depot in Boston. So the company that we're working with today is a provider for multiple home improvement stores. So let's create a new agreement for Home Depot in Boston. So from our account in Salesforce, we're going to create that new agreement. That agreement will obviously be a draft initially, then we'll have an approval process if required. Let's give a name to our sales agreement. So let's call it Boston for fiscal year 2019. Let's give it a start date. We'll talk in a few minutes about the importance of the start dates and also its impact on the process. So let's give it a start date of December 1st. Obviously, it's related to our Home Depot Boston account, our schedule frequency. So our sales agreement can be monthly, quarterly, yearly, or it can be a one-time agreement. So let's go with monthly for our current example. And let's go with a schedule count of 12, so 1 full year monthly. We'll have to select the price book for our sales agreement because the sales agreement will obviously look at quantities that we plan on selling to one customer for specific products, but it's also going to look at unit price to calculate our planned revenue. End date we do not need to input because it's going to be calculated obviously from our start date and our schedule count. And the last important point when creating the sales agreement is the actuals calculation mode. So we talked about it's very hard for sales rep to look at trending data for their accounts, right? So it's hard to compare what we had agreed on with actuals. So the idea there is that we're going to want to bring in data either from an off-platform ERP or an on-platform ERP or whatever system the orders are captured into really to Salesforce to be able to compare that data. So we have a couple different ways we can go about that. So the orders could be uploaded through the Salesforce API. It could be calculated directly from orders that are entered in Salesforce or obviously connected through an external system, or orders through a contract for those cases when you have a contract with a customer that the orders must come through. For our use case today, let's go with automatically from direct orders. Well, let's save on the sales agreement. Let's open our agreement. So right now, obviously I'm gonna have no data in that sales agreement right now. No products are concerned by it. So first thing we wanna do is add products to our sales agreement. So I'm gonna click add products on our agreement, and then we're gonna select all the different products that we're planning to sell to that customer for that year. So let's say it's going to be, in this case, batteries, flooring, and light bulbs. So I select those 3 products. I hit next. Now, as I said earlier, we selected our price book. So our list price will come in the sales price field. That could be modified manually. So we could select a different sales price for that specific customer. Or we could also allow a discount percentage on different products. let's keep it, let's put a 10% discount for the batteries on there. And then we're going to say, what's the quantity? So the quantity that we put in there is going to be our yearly quantity, right? So we created an agreement that's for a full year. So what's the quantity that we plan on selling for that specific product? So let's say 2,500 for batteries, 1,000 for flooring, and 5,000 for light bulbs. And I'm going to hit save. So what Salesforce then does is fills in our sales agreement table with the planned quantity for all the different products. And what you're going to see on there is that it automatically split the planned quantity over the whole year. So it split our quantity by 12 to have data in the 12 months of our agreement. Also brought in the sales price, discount percentage for the product that I had a discount percentage entered in. And it's also going to give me the planned amount for that, the overall period in this case, and then per month according to the list price minus discount. So that's when you create a new sales agreement. Now, automatically that, as I said earlier, that sales agreement is a draft for now. So now, because it's on the platform and not in an Excel spreadsheet, what I can do is take advantage of the approval processes in Salesforce. So obviously we can go, as light or as complex as we want for the approval process. So I'm going to submit my sales agreement for approval. And obviously everything that I'm doing right now could be done from a mobile device with the Salesforce app, right? And okay, so I submitted for approval. In this case, for our demo, the approval process is very simple. It's auto-approved, so no complexities there. One thing to note is that the status is not approved, it's activated. And that's because the start date is in the past. So basically, if the start date was in the future, it would only be approved and then would automatically activate as we reach the start date. But for now, it auto-activated because was already in the past. So that's our sales agreement. So let's now jump into, so that's one that we just created. So, but if we want to look at a bit more data, let's look at an existing sales agreement for different customers. So Home Depot Montreal in this case. So now that one was created a while ago. So we see our planned quantity, but what we're also going to see on there, what I mentioned earlier, is we're going to want to compare that planned quantity to the actuals, right? So the actuals are coming again from orders that are entered in Salesforce, so either manually or coming from an external system. And then you can see for the sales rep, makes it very easy to look at this and see what's my trend. How are we trending? Are we trending towards reaching our sales agreement objectives, or are we not going that way? Another important thing we can do from that sales agreement page is it's going to allow us to modify, obviously, future months or current months. So it's going to allow us to modify data in there. So I'm going to be able to modify the discount, the quantities that we are planning on selling for that specific month, or the sales price. Now, what happens if I modify the sales price for this specific line to 600 instead of 550? So I enter my new value, I hit save. Now, that new value will be reflected in there, as well as the total amount, obviously, because I changed the sale price. You see that there's a little eye on there. So to note that there was a change since that agreement was last activated. We can see the old value, the change in value. We can also see that because we're on platform again, we can automatically notify our operations director that there was a change on there that he should be considering. You'll also see that the status of that sales agreement is now under revision. So we can make sure that the sales agreement either needs to go under revision if there's a modification made by someone, or again, it could be auto-approved, but now it's under revision. So if I want it to be activated and orders to count against it, I'm going to have to submit it for approval. We talked about trend analysis. So what we can also give, because now that data is on there, is we can look at Einstein Analytics and see my actual revenue compared to my planned revenue. We see that we're trending very positively on this specific account, except for the last month where our actual revenue was down. So what this allows is for the salespeople to easily see that trend and take action against it right off the bat, right? So now we know that we need the sales rep for this specific account needs to take action, needs to get a meeting with that customer, say, okay, what's going on? Why are we not reaching our planned our planned orders. Is there something going on? Has there been issues with orders in the past? So that's the 360 view of our customer that we want. We want to be able to be proactive and take action, not realize that a couple months later. Obviously, that's an ongoing sales agreement. The other thing that we're going to be able to do is, so again, I talked about integrating orders from the ERP system. Let's quickly create an order to see what's going to happen on there and how our actuals are reflected once an order is created. So right now, our actual is 100 for batteries. So let's create a new battery order quickly in Salesforce. Again, manually for our demo, but this would probably be automatic for on an ongoing basis, integrated with your ERP. So let's, I click new on there, but let's create a new order. First submit it for approval, because again, as I said, needs to be approved if we want to be able to count orders against it. Let's make sure we approve this. We approve our sales agreement. If we get load on this page. So that's a typical demo experience. So page refuses to load. Try to refresh quickly. If not, we'll move on to the next step. Okay, there we go. So I can, in this case, approve because I'm admin, obviously. So I approve my, and now we're back to activated for our sales agreement. I can create an order against it. So Home Depot against our sales agreement. The order will obviously be a draft right off the bat, but let's go in and modify it. We'll add batteries to that order. So let's add products to our new order that we've created. Let's add batteries because that's the one we want to verify again. So Home Depot calls us, wants to make an order for 250, add their standard price, and will hit save. Sales agreement will only account for activated orders, not draft orders. So we'll make sure to activate our new order, mark it. And then from our order, which is linked to our sales agreement, we can go jump back, see the details of our sales agreement. Let's show all. Now it's still going to show 100. That table will refresh daily automatically, but I can force a recalculation on our table. And it takes a second, and then we'll have to refresh. And then we see that our quantity used to be 100. Now we put in a new order for 250. Now it's 350. So that's going to be, it's going to take all the orders in as we move forward, and that's what's going to allow us to look at our trending data. The other thing, as you can see, that sales agreement is coming to an end. It's not over yet, but if we look at different agreements, that's already expired, we have the option to renew our agreement on there. So if I hit renew, it's going to ask me to give it a new name for the new year, select the start date, which will default obviously to the day after the last day of our previous agreement. And then it's going to automatically create our new sales agreement for the next year or next period, depending on what the original period was for the sales agreement. And it's going to take all the default values that you add on your initial sales agreement. Okay, so that's very quickly the sales agreements in Manufacturing Cloud. Let me go back to our presentation quickly. So what did we just look at on sales agreement? So it's going to allow us, the sales agreements in Manufacturing Cloud will allow us to negotiate sale of product with a specific account in Salesforce. So avoid spreadsheets, add that data in one place. It's going to allow us to do agreements that are one-time, monthly, quarterly, or annually. We're also going to be able to inline edit that sales agreement in Salesforce as we get new information. And we're going to be able to track those changes and notify the right people when changes do come in. We're going to be able to leverage approval processes of Salesforce as we use the sales agreement on platform. VP of Sales will be able to review accounts in his territory and see specific account data for sales agreement and overall aggregated data for accounts in his territory. We're going to be able to easily renew a sales agreement. And it's obviously going to make information a lot easier to digest for operations. We're going to be able to look at unit base, which, as Camille mentioned, sometimes we're going to be running out of stock too quickly, or we're going to have overstock, which we want to avoid as much as possible. So it's going to make It's going to make the information flow a lot easier from sales to operations. And for the salespeople, track actual versus planned, get actual data directly from the ERP, and take action on that data if it's not going according to plan. So that was sales agreements. Let's quickly jump back to our demo. Now we're going to look at forecasts in Salesforce Manufacturing Cloud. So let's go on our Home Depot account again. So from the account page, it's going to be a different tab in our case, but obviously these are Lightning pages. We can play with layout. We can show it whichever way we want. Let's look at our forecast in Manufacturing Cloud. So right now I'm showing a limited number of months. So let's hit show all so we see our whole year. And we can decide how far back we want to show data in the forecast when we configure it, and how many periods we want to show total in our forecast. So a couple interesting things that we're going to see on there is, obviously it's going to bring in data from our sales agreement. And as we just saw, our sales agreement is coming up to an end in December 19. So we don't have data for the sales agreement going forward after that date. But what's very interesting about the forecast on there, and what's going to be very powerful, because obviously that forecast will be able to be pushed to our ERP system to be taken into account by the MRP and plan correctly our needs for equipment, for inventory, is that if there's no sales agreement, it's going to be able to look at either opportunity that's already in there, and we're looking at revenue right now, but quick jump back, we can either look at revenue or quantities, as we were able to on our sales agreement. So if we look at quantities, the forecast will either look at the sales agreement plan quantity, or it's going to look at opportunity, and then if there's no opportunity as well, it's going to look at last year's order quantities. And it's going to define our forecast numbers according to that data. So right now, the way we've set it up in our demo, when we have control over the formula that calculates the forecast, it's looking at the biggest number between opportunity, last year's orders, and sales agreement plan quantities. So that's right now it's taking the opportunity number on there because that's the biggest one. But we have full control over that formula, and I'll show it to you a bit later and see how we can manage that. And you'll also see that when it does look at last year orders quantity, it doesn't track one-to-one the number there. And the reason why we can do that is we can automatically calculate growth in our forecast in Manufacturing Cloud. So we can have an overall market growth, so what we expect will be the market growth, and then we can also have a growth specific to that account. And these two numbers can be modified and recalculated. We won't do it because of time constraints, but these can be played with very easily. So this is a forecast. What we're also going to be able to do in our forecast is we're going to be able to do manual inline changes if we need to, as we were able to in the sales agreement. So let's say, well, that 20,000 looks a bit high on there. I can change that value to 10,000, for example, and then say, well, why did I make that change? Opportunity, close, percentage, too low, for example, right? And that, and I can hit save. And as with the sales agreement, we're going to have that information button there that's going to show us what were the modifications that were made. So I know that which user made it, what value it was before, what value it is now, and why that adjustment was made. And if a manager needs to reset it, they can modify it and put it back to the originally calculated value. So that's for the forecast. And let's quickly look at the formula that's behind that forecast that I was explaining a bit earlier. So as I was saying, we can decide the start period. So we can look, right now we're looking at this start period of this month, but we could show past and future on our forecast. We can select how many periods we want to show on our forecast and what metrics we want to be able to see on our forecast. As I said, we have a formula builder on our forecast. So we decide how we want to calculate that forecast, right? So as I said, right now we're looking at the biggest amount between the planned quantity, past orders, and opportunity quantity, and applying the growth only to our past orders quantity, because the two other numbers should already take that into account. But that's very flexible, and we can adjust it depending on how the company wants to look at that data. So that's forecast in Manufacturing Cloud. Let's quickly go back to our slides. So again, forecasts in Manufacturing Cloud, we have our org-wide formula that's going to calculate our forecasted either units or revenue. We can always adjust our growth percentages for market and accounts. Forecast, again, based on units or revenue. And as I said earlier, it's going to be very easy to push that to our ERP to take into account the actuals that we, the data, the most relevant data in our CRM, most up-to-date data in our CRM to plan accordingly on the ERP side. We're going to be able to report on forecasting accuracy, compare actuals to forecasted, and the director of operations will be able to look at aggregated data. So overall accounts, what's our forecast for specific products. Camille, do we still have time to quickly look at Einstein, or should we move forward?
I think we're just going to move forward just to respect everybody's agenda.
Absolutely. So earlier talked about your operations, your business without Manufacturing Cloud. So now what could it look like with Manufacturing Cloud after what we just saw? Well, sales reps now keep all their sales agreement and forecasted demand up to date directly in Salesforce. So we don't have data all over the place. It's all in one easy to access place for everyone in the business that needs to have access to it. Sales rep, again, can easily compare the actuals to the forecasted data and take action when they need to. The director of operations can see plan and forecasted demand updated daily. We can obviously push that data to the ERP as we discussed earlier and adjust the production schedule accordingly. As we've seen, we could notify the director of operations automatically if there is a modification. And all that leads really to reduced numbers of either shortages or stock surplus and possibly expedited orders that we need to put into our system to make sure our customer is satisfied.
Great. Well, thank you very much, Jean-Michel. This is very exciting, and we're only scratching the surface of Manufacturing Cloud. In this short demo, you saw that you can now manage all of your sales agreement directly in Salesforce. This means that everyone in your organization will now have the same vision on what was agreed with each customer, what has been fulfilled so far, and what remains to be delivered. We also saw that you can finally ditch the spreadsheets and have your entire sales team maintain their forecast directly in Salesforce. And everyone will finally have access to the same information whenever they need it, not only when the VP of Sales asks for the sales team to update their forecast. We hope you're as excited as we are with these features. In the past, we've often had to do some pretty extensive development just to be able to provide similar functionality. Now it's readily available directly in Manufacturing Cloud. Before we let you go, I just want to take 1 minute to talk about NewBIC. For those of you that don't know us, we're digital transformation experts. We use the best cloud platform, Salesforce, to optimize our customers' businesses. We have offices in North Carolina and in Quebec, where both Jean-Michel and I are from. Our employees and our customers are located everywhere in North America. We're now over 125 employees dedicated to the success of our customers. We work mainly with manufacturers and distributors, and we have the required knowledge and experience to make your Salesforce project a success. We're 100% focused on the Salesforce ecosystem since 2003. This is the only thing we do day in and day out. That means that chances are that if we haven't seen the exact use case you want to optimize, we probably addressed something very similar at another customer in the past, and you get the benefit from that. We've developed our lead acquisition to contract renewal framework, which allows you to run your entire business on Salesforce, including financials and reporting as well. The last thing I want to leave you with is your homework. If you want to learn more about how we can help your organization, I invite you to download our latest ebooks. They're written specifically with manufacturers in mind. So the link is here at the bottom. I hope you learned something new today. We had a lot of fun preparing this webinar, and we thank you for your time.